Hi everyone, it's your Simmer here. Welcome back to Generational Farming. And it is the last year here on Generation 1. We're into the last day of spring. First day that we can go ahead and do something with our grass. So that is what I am in here to do as I pull away from the tractor so that you can hear me a little bit better and I don't have to yell over the engine as much. So, going to get the mower, which is over by the silo. I've got lag. I don't like that when I'm going over the bridge. That's how we end up in the water. But I've literally just jumped onto the map, so as you can see, everything's kind of still painting up as I'm moving around. It's trying to keep up with me. But as always, we've got the mowers over here. So for those who might be new, popping in for the first time, Generational Farming is a competition we've got going on here in FSN. Basically see who makes the most money over generations, and the plan is 7 to 10 generations by the time we're done. Again, this is the first one, so we've got a long way. We've been on here since December? No. I don't know. Maybe it was that long. But this is our 8th year, and each year takes 12 days, so yeah, I guess that'd be like 96 days, so that probably is about right. Doesn't it seem, I know it's been a while, but just kind of wild to think that it was into last year that we were here. Alright, so we've got ourselves the mower. Alright, and as always, we are underway over here underneath the shade trees along the road. I can move over a bit more, so I will do that. I'll try to stick with the line I've run before. I've certainly gotten less and less concerned each year, as I assumed I would, with kind of maximizing every last inch here. There's plenty of grass that we get either way, but I don't want to be completely not doing what I can, so just there's challenges here with some of the trees the way they are, and always these turns I'm likely to leave a little bit. So let me see, I'm gonna go ahead and clean this up this time, because I normally don't do that, and then of course now I've created stuff in the back. I don't know, I probably can't win for losing. So let me see, now we'll try to get lined up. Most of this row of trees is pretty straight here. I apologize, I hope I'm not making anybody seasick. So trying to get a good view there so that I can mow and get what I need done. So we'll back on up there, and I have not set my GPS line, so I'll do that, and then whoops, not quite far enough, there we go. And then we will move this over to about the halfway point, because that helps us when we're back at the other end of the fields, because that way when we're across it, I don't even remember what the field number is, but when we're over in that far field off to the upper right, then we're kind of in line here because we'll be at the other half of the road, and so this is kind of my normal setup. So at this point we're going to be moving in winter 1, I should say. We could get out of the year. We're moving this year is when we are leaving Oberon for greener pastures. I guess that remains to be determined. That is interesting why we left. You know what, I'm wondering. That's why it was set to, I think, the windrower, which is slightly wider than the mower, which was the last thing that would have been on this machine, and it remembers that. But I was like, why do I have a little bit of grass left? But that would be why. So we can see there is a slight difference then in size between the mowing working with and what we can do with the pickup, but not substantial, because obviously I didn't leave that much. So that is interesting, because I really thought the windrower was bigger than that, but at a minimum, obviously, it's still much more helpful, because contrary to what we did when we started, when we really had some tight budgets going on at the beginning of this generation, and we were just mowing with that front mower and then collecting right behind us, obviously this still ends up being significantly less passes and therefore less time. Because even though I'm doing two things, where before I was mowing and collecting all in one, because I had to have such a smaller working width and just the logistics of it, I'm basically half the time, even though I'm running the fields a couple times in essence, because I've got to mow them and then I have to come back in and windrow and collect. Alright, I got done around the silo. That's always a bit of a ballet act, and so rather than try to talk through that and be even more distracted and so forth, I just decided I'd spare you that this episode and just get to the point where I can at least move a little smoother. Plus I was getting things exactly like this with our fun friend, Mr. Lag, who shows up far, far too often, especially after we've just joined the server. So, the plan is, because we're leaving in Winter 1, I will be only partially doing a yearly harvest here. What that means is I've been able to get 4 cuttings of the fields every year. We're not going to do that this year. We're gonna do 3, is what I'm thinking, and I say that with hesitation at this point, because I'm not even sure that makes sense, but I think it does. So, because the silos can definitely keep up. What it's gonna create, however, is a situation where I'm selling silage as opposed to what I've normally done, which is wait into winter to begin any selling, because I have the capacity to do that with what I've got with my silos, my fermenting silos that are working on turning this grass into silage. Where I'm not going to be able to do that because we're gone in Winter 1, so it's dangerous to assume that I will have any time on Winter 1 to do anything. And so that would be really, really disappointing if I harvested all this grass all year, waited around, and then they contacted me bright and early on Winter 1 and said, we're ready to pull you off the server. I certainly can't tell them, I really want 3 hours to run my silage to sale. I don't think anybody would be happy. They wouldn't be. And honestly, I wouldn't be either. I mean, we've been given fair warning many, many years in a competition where we've been told to expect that we might only get a year. So I don't want to just not honor kind of that process. It's not fair to the operations folks that are moving us and so forth. So my intent is to be ready, because what they have given us is they've said we are authorized, and they put that word in italics to, I think, make it super clear, and I'm assuming it's being made super clear for exactly this, so that we're not wasting a ton of time at the end where suddenly operations is ready to move and people are like, oh, I've got to sell all my equipment and I've got to sell my buildings. I think they want to be able to come in and let us and remove us as quickly as possible. So we're allowed to move 3 pieces of equipment. I am going to move my tractor, my windrower, and my forage wagon. I'm hesitating a bit because I'm going to take a look, because I might end up moving my back mower instead of my windrower. I mean, it really comes down to what are my 3 most costly items to repurchase, because I'm going to have to end up with the same mix I have here as I go forward to just pick up where I've left off with the grass work in our next generation on our new map, because that is the determination of what I've made, is how I'm going to go ahead and do well within the competition and go ahead and be competitive to some degree. I am going to run a smaller plot is the plan. Now, we know how plans go. Sometimes, you know, as warriors or generals will tell you, the plan never survives first contact with the enemy. That may be the same thing that happens. I may get on the server, get the field that I think I want to get, and decide I want more. I don't know. I can't imagine that would be the case, because I know how big I have here. I'm looking for something smaller. I think I found it. We have had conversations amongst the FMs on the server here of kind of what everybody's thinking, and blessedly, it seems everybody's thinking about different fields, so there hasn't even been any, oh darn, I wanted that one too. So that has made it nice. Now, the FM who just joined, as I was making my turnaround at the end, Donald, I don't know that he's been in the conversation, because I think when we had it was a few episodes back when we were doing the crazy silage sales, and I think everybody but Donald was on at that point. I could be mistaken. Maybe there was someone. Actually, I think it was Brent that was missing. So no, I think Donald was here. So never mind. But there was one FM that wasn't present. But of everybody else, we kind of, in the chat, as we were making the mad dash to sell at $220 per 1,000 liters for silage, we were chatting about various things, including, hey, what are you guys thinking? And it was nice, because it looks like we're all in completely different areas of the map, so that should help for anybody who wants to expand or do anything like that to still stay consolidated. Now, what I'm unsure of, and again, as I just shared, you know, plans survive up till first contact with the enemy. What it appears to be at this point is I think there's a couple of us here that are still probably going to do grass going forward, but it looks like several people have said, yeah, I'm just working crops, and that's going to be my thing. So, you know, we'll see how people lay out. I know my selection of field is related to the fact that there is one location on the map, I think, that we're going to be able to sell silage to, and if I can be close to that, that's a good thing, so that I don't have to travel too far, because that is a larger map, so that could be significant amounts of time if I'm far away. So, sorry, stopped a little bit early before the turnaround because the lag was just kicking in, and it was pretty bad, so I'm glad I did take a little bit of a pause to get going. But at this point, I will be cutting, collecting, doing the normal thing that I always do, not looking at any contracts. I don't think there's any at this point. There might be some fertilizing contracts, but I gave those up years ago, because you make 1,000 to 2,000 per contract, and it takes you, you know, it could take you half an hour or maybe even up to an hour by the time you get supplies, get there, and all of that. So it's just much better to focus on what I've got here, and as you can see, with 1.8 million, I think I'm doing fine, and we'll be in pretty good shape. So I'll end up talking in later episodes about where I think I'm going to land, but some of that is going to depend on, you know, what cost we're really going to sell this silage at, and there's the lag again. And yeah, what I mean, what price I'll sell this silage at. So I likely will be having to sell some of this at 150, maybe if I'm lucky, 160. Because what I really think I'm going to need to do is really have everything sold from the first 2 cuttings by the time I'm doing the third one, so that all I'm really doing is waiting for that to process, because it does take the better part of 2 full days to get all the grass done. So if they're not going most of the time, like if I'm already still waiting for other silage, it could be a problem. However, if I sell a little bit, the silo can keep running and I won't necessarily get backed up. I just may be struggling really those last couple days to actually get there. But in general, I think I'm going to be selling at or below the average price this year, because I don't think we can get above the average till we're gone. And I always like to take a peek at the map. Doesn't look like anything's changed. There's always a possibility someone's, snuck in, and I say that in jest, because obviously we're able to purchase, whatever we feel we need to purchase on the land. That's one of the things we are allowed to do in generational farming that normally we can't do in FSN, is you're not allowed to buy land yourself normally. That gets handled through a process. But for generational farming, we are able to do that once we're placed on the map and we're given our initial plot. But there was a possibility someone decided, hey, for the last year I'm going to add this other field and do something. But I do know there's been at least one FM that seems to have shut down their grass operation and gone fully crops as of last year, and part of it may have been exactly what I'm talking about here, with the fact we're going to get subpar pricing. Alright, so I've moved over to this field. So this is what I was talking about when I was setting it kind of at the middle of the road, because that lets me, again, maximize the grass, and also I don't have to reset and dance every time. But yeah, getting those lower prices, I think, they may have determined it's just not worth for them doing the work at that point if they can't sell it for 190, or if we were to somehow be lucky again a couple years in a row, 220. But that is a one-time thing that has happened in 7 years that we've been here so far. So I think we just got super lucky with market conditions, and I can't imagine that will be happening again. But we won't know, because we won't be here. So the last thing before I wrap up, I just want to make sure people understand. We have been told there's going to be a break because they're going to try to stagger these servers from the normal FSN time. The reason for that is there's been requests to do that because those of us, including myself, I've got my regular farm that I operate in FSN on the servers. And there have been folks who have kind of been like, I'd rather it not be the same month on both, because if they've got harvests here and then have harvests on the regular farm, that can be a lot to bite off. So just trying to get this positioned. What I normally do is run, in essence, call it 2 partial headlands around here. So I run here and run around the bottom, and that just helps give me some room to turn around and not run up that hill and so forth. But with the staggering, what that's going to require is there will be some time where we're not just getting removed here and then in a day or two being moved on to the other server. I think they're kind of going to stagger it a bit, because otherwise it wouldn't make a lot of sense. So I'm not clear. Maybe they will just have the servers ready and immediately move us over, but just have the servers set to, say, 6 months out. So there may be a break of time between when you see these episodes, because this is really the only real-time series that I have operating on the channel, where I pretty much do the work, and then very quickly, usually same day, I'll get the video put together and published whenever I can get it out. So I want to give folks a heads up that there may be a larger than normal gap than you'd expect, because I think normally you'd expect, hey, we've gotten taken off the server, and a day or two later you're expecting another video showing how I'm getting set up on the new server, because I'm certainly immediately going to share that with you, because there's just going to be things to share. Like, what field did I end up at? What does the map look like? Getting my field going, and so forth. So that's where we're at right now on generational farming. And I am going to keep doing my hours of work over the course of today and get this done and continue moving forward through the year, and then I'll throw something out the next time I think it's worthy. It may be when we're ready to move, but there may be something in between. But I'll see you next time.